Why hello there, and welcome to my new tutorial series where I'm going to be showing you how to make this character using only Blender. I'm going to be showing you my workflow and explaining things as we go. As you can see here, we're just starting with a regular UV sphere, entering sculpt mode by pressing Ctrl Tab, or you can click on the drop down menu in the top left corner. Then I'm using the grab brush. The default hotkey is G, and then I'm pressing F to change the size of the brush. And then I'm just, getting things into position. I'm adding a subdivide surface modifier, applying it, going back into sculpt mode, moving things around, and just getting the basic torso shape. As you can see here, I'm immediately starting with the character. I presume that you already know how to maneuver around with Blender, moving the camera around, pivoting, panning, all that basic stuff. You can always just slow down the video or pause it to see what I'm doing exactly. I tried to make this video fast, but also not sped up. So this is actually just my regular workflow speed, because I don't want to waste people's times, but also I want to show you everything I'm doing. Right now, I'm pressing Shift-R to remesh the torso. You can also click on that drop-down menu in the top right corner. And then once I'm happy with the grid, then I press Ctrl-R to actually apply the remesh. If you're wondering what's remeshing, basically it's making the object more dense so I can start sculpting in the detail. So once again, that's Shift-R to adjust the density, and then Ctrl-R to actually apply that density. You will see on the grid there's a number. The lower the number, the more dense the mesh is going to be. Now I'm using a different tool, which is the crease brush. Default hotkey is Shift-C to add, as you can see here, some detail here for the rib cage and for the abs. Going back to the grab brush. Using a little bit of clay strips here. By default, I don't think there is a shortcut for clay strips, but you can always add one yourself if you want to. I just click on it. Adding this back crease here. That's going to be basically your rib cage crease, I guess. And then a spine crease. Now here I'm using the blobber brush to add the shoulders, and then a snake hook brush to just extend them. I don't know what the shortcuts for those tools are. I just click on them because I don't really use them that often. The main brushes you're going to use is the crease brush, the grab brush, the smooth brush, and those are basically the top three, I guess. Adding the back muscles now. At the beginning, everything is going to look a little bit wonky, but we're just getting some big shapes prepared. So right now I'm using the blob brush again for the butt, and then using the crease brush to, well, create the crack, I guess. It's gonna look a little bit weird right now, but I'm not gonna fix it until I get the legs placed in position. You can kind of see the back muscles already showing there a little bit. Just adding a little bit more density, or mass I should say, to those back muscles here. As you can see here, I'm adding a little bit of roundness to the rib cage. You don't want it to be too flat. Unless, you know, you're going for that kind of look, that's also fine. But I guess I should have mentioned this at the start of the video. As you can see here, my character is kind of like stylistic with, I call it stylistic characters with realistic proportions. So don't expect anything to be like super anatomically correct. It's still, you know, pretty stylistic. So now we're going to start work here on the legs. We start with a cube, scale it along the Z, add a mirror, add a subdivide, delete the top and the bottom face so it has holes. We're going to be filling those holes later down the line. Move it a little bit forward. Grab these vertices at the bottom, scale them down. Make sure that your foot is straight along the Z, because that's going to make it much easier to rig later down the line. We will see what I mean in the next episode, actually. I guess I didn't mention it at the start of the video. There's going to be 3 episodes for this tutorial series. In this first one, we're going to be doing the sculpting for the body and the head. In the second one, we're going to be doing rigging and the hair and some materials. And the final one is going to be just, you know, outfit, you know, posing the character, lights, camera, setup, you know, and stuff like that. So as you can see here, I'm kind of modeling the leg manually. I'm not sculpting it, at least not yet anyways, because it's actually much easier to just model the features of the leg like this at the beginning, and then subdivide it a bunch of times and then sculpt it from there. It's going to save you so much time. As you can see here, I'm just subdividing and then applying the modifier, and now I'm in sculpt mode. And moving things around. You will notice that the outer edge, I guess, of the leg is curved, and then the inner part is pretty much straight. That's actually by design. If you do it that way, it's gonna be much easier later down the line to actually get a good shape on the legs. As you can see here, I'm adding a little bit of curvature in the inner portion, but not too much. So now that we actually have the legs installed, we can start working on the butt properly. So here I noticed that the certain portion of the torso was not visible, so I just am moving it forward. I recommend that if you're having trouble trying to figure out the shape, if it's looking good or not, just zoom out, see the whole model. That's going to help you a lot. Because when you're zoomed in, you can't see the whole picture. It's kind of an obvious advice, but people just forget about it, including me. So I'm just inflating this inner part of the leg. Subdividing it a little bit more. This is where we start adding the details. I change the strength of the brush, and then I crease it and just smooth it out. When it comes to leg detail, you can go really ham and add a bunch of detail, but for this character I'll just add the minimal amount, which is at the back right here, and then the knees here at the front. I tried to make this character as light as possible when it comes to the detail, to make it easy for people who are trying to follow the tutorial. So right there, I just used a really neat feature of Blender. If you press Shift B, you will zoom in onto the area that you've selected. You will see me using that quite a lot. For those who are wondering how I mask that, if you press Control, Shift, and then drag with your mouse, you'll be able to mask like that. So Control, Shift, and then drag with your mouse. So just like we did with the legs, we're now going to do the arms. Grab a cube, scale it down, and then scale it along the Z. Subdivide it, add a mirror, delete the faces. Make sure that the arms, or I should say the armpits specifically, are not too low. Keep an eye on them. Now, I guess I should probably mention this. What are these arms and legs? You didn't show us how to make this. What's this? Are you cheating? Well, yes. I guess it's kind of like my base mesh. Even though I don't really use base meshes, I just use base arms and legs. And basically, these are just models that I grabbed from the internet. If you want these models, you can just join my Discord server. Link in the description. There's a blend file. You can just download it and use it. They're pretty low poly, but you can also subdivide them to get nice results. So yeah. Basically what I do is I sculpt this high poly body, then I retopologize it, and then I connect the retopologized mesh with these arms and feet. Or you can just make your own arm and feet. That's also fine. There's plenty of tutorials out there. There's actually some tutorial videos you can see on my Discord server. When you join, there's a channel, and I've linked some tutorial videos where they show you how to make arm and feet, which is, pretty cool. So, just as you saw, I modeled the arms, subdivided it a little bit. Here I'm just adjusting the shoulders and the armpit area. Because as you can see here, all these meshes are separated, but soon enough, once everything is in place, we're going to combine them into one. And you'll see how that's done. So here I'm showing you the correct proportions for the arms. So how do you know if your arms are proportioned correctly? Well, basically, if you imagine the arm touching or moving down, it should the tips of the fingers should touch the midway point of thigh. And if you've done that correctly, then you have your arms are probably have good proportions. Now come the booba. So as you can see here, I'm just using a regular UV sphere, mirroring it. Now here I'm going to select this vertex at the tip, enable proportional editing. You can just press O, that's the default hotkey. Then you can use the scroll mouse to adjust the actual size of the proportional edit. And then I just rotated the booba, subdivided it a little bit, and now I'm in sculpt mode. Now, as you can see here, I purposefully did not apply the subdivision modifier. I just, put it there, but I don't actually apply it. We'll do that later on. One thing I didn't mention earlier in the video is that any brush can become a smooth brush if you press and hold shift. So just, you're, let's say, holding the grab brush and you press and hold shift, boom, now that's a smooth brush. Then you can just smooth things up. So whenever you see me like using the grab brush and then I'm just, moving the mouse all, everywhere, it's like, wait, what? He's not grabbing anything. Oh yeah, I'm just smoothing it out. So once again, the mask tool, that's Control Shift and then dragging it as a lasso. And then that's how you create masks. And then if you want to get rid of the mask, you just press Alt M. That will clear out all masks. Or you can press Control I, which inverts the mask. So Control Shift and then mouse to create the mask, Alt M to clear all masks, and then Control I to invert the mask. You will also see me smoothing out the mask, but there is no default hotkey for that. You have to create one for yourself if you want to. As you can see here right now, I'm just smoothing things around. So now we're going to start work on the neck. I mask out where I want the neck to be. Use the grab brush to kind of just pull it out, smooth it out a little bit. Get rid of the mask, make it a little bit thinner. And this is the Draw Sharp brush. It's basically like a brush that allows you to just dig, I guess. So you want to dig out this place here. So there's actually a muscle right there near the armpit, the pectoral muscle. that kind of goes into the booba. So here I'm making the neck, actually look like a neck, instead of it just being like a flat pancake. And then I'm remeshing the torso because I need more density on the neck area. So now we can smooth it out, and now as you can see here, this area is much more dense, and we can actually start working on it for real. So here I'm using the pinch brush. Default hotkey is P, although most of the time you just click on it. Which, I mean, the brush just pinches, as you can guess from the name. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that any brush can be inverted. So for example, the crease brush that usually, creases inwards towards the mesh, you can press and hold Control for it to crease outwards. And that can be done for any brush. So for example, the blobber brush or the inflate brush usually just inflates outwards, but you can also inflate inwards by pressing and holding Control. My advice, don't add too much detail here in this first stage of sculpting, because once we retopologize it, we're going to lose a lot of detail. So it's just wasteful to sculpt too much detail. Unless you're practicing, that's also fine if you're doing it for practice. But just add a little bit of detail here and there. Get the basic shapes there. And then once you retopologize it, later down the line, we can add a little bit more detail using the multi-resolution modifier. So now we're going to start working on the head. It's going to be a little bit cursed at the beginning. I had a lot of trouble getting the proper shapes I wanted, so it's going to look like an alien or some weird stuff. But we'll get there. So first I started with a sphere, as you saw. I subdivided it a little bit, 2 subdivisions. Applied the subdivide modifier. Here, as you can see here, I'm just, getting the basic shape. Then once I'm happy with my basic shape, I'm going to remesh it until I have about 50k vertices. If you're wondering, how do I see how many vertices do I have? Well, in the bottom right corner, you will see statistics, and in there you'll be able to see how many vertices / edges / faces you have. So right now I'm remeshing it, and I'm just keeping an eye to see, if I got about 50k. It doesn't have to be specifically 50k, but that's usually, the amount that I go for. After remeshing, I just smooth it a little bit. If you're wondering where I'm looking and what I'm doing, I'm always looking at the silhouette. So basically the edge of the mesh. Even now, I'm looking at the silhouette. As you saw there, I just used the clay strips to kind of dig out the eyes. Then using the grab brush, I pulled the nose. I'm just creasing it. To get those edges. Then you use draw sharp to kind of dig out the nose. And then a crease brush to actually add the detail to the nose. So up until this point, the The head mesh looks pretty decent-ish, you know, not too bad. This is where the horror starts to begin. The eyes is usually when things start messing up, but just kind of bear with it, and you'll get to the good result. So there I just kind of drew the shape of the eyes with the decrease brush, and then I masked off that section, inverted the mask by pressing Ctrl I, and then I used the grab brush to kind of dig them in. And now I'm adding the actual eyeballs themselves, which is just a regular UV sphere. Adding a mirror modifier and then just making them smaller and positioning them where they're supposed to be. Now here's the problem. I should have made these eyes way smaller than this. And that's where I made a big mistake. Now obviously eventually I figured that out. But yeah. And also not only should I have made them a little bit smaller, I should have also pulled them back so they're not too forward. So here I'm just trying to cover the eyes by pulling the mesh a little bit forward. But soon I'll realize that this is not working and I need to make the eyeballs themselves a little bit smaller and move them a little bit back. Now if you're wondering, why are you showing us this? I thought this was supposed to be a tutorial series. And it's true, it's supposed to be a tutorial series, but you can also learn from my mistakes. And also, I did tell you that I was going to show you my full workflow. Including all the mistakes. Here I'm just, using the inflate brush to kind of give a little bit puffiness to the cheeks and to the jaw. You want to do this before you add the mouth. You're gonna have an easier time doing it now than later. I do believe we're going to start working on the mouth now. We're going to try to get a nice smile. There you go. That's a nice smile. Nah, I'm just kidding. So this is the beginning of the mouth. It's going to be the upper lip right here. The bottom lip right there. Basically, you first want to kind of draw this like 2D image of a lip. And then you can actually mask off the sections and then push and then pull the appropriate parts. So first here, I'm kind of pushing the inner part in, which is going to help us later down the line. Then I'm masking this section off and then pulling the top lip forward, and I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom lip as well. Now, obviously, the mouth kind of looks really weird, but that's fine. Just worry about the big shapes, and then when it comes to the little shapes, we'll add the detail later. As you can see here, that area between the mouth and the nose, I don't know exactly what it's called, but as you can see here, it's kind of too big right now, too long. So I'm just masking off the top portion of the head and just moving everything up to make that area a bit smaller. And then just, smoothing everything out a little bit. Now we're going to work on the chin. Basically just make it round. Simple as that. And then at the very bottom, you kind of want to make it flat. Unless you go for that anime look, then you can make it pointy. I sometimes do that. Yes, so here's the part where we triangulate the mesh and then we subdivide it once. Now if you're wondering why are we triangulating this, a long time ago a friend of mine who's a really good sculptor, he's actually a professional sculptor, he told me just do it, it's gonna make it so that your mesh looks better. And I just did it at that point. I don't know why, but it does look better. Apparently triangulating the mesh is better when it comes to sculpting. So yeah. So now that we have a little bit more topology and density, we can start working on the details. So let's talk about add-ons. What add-ons do I use? Well, specifically, there's three main ones. The first one obviously being loop tools. You will see it later in the next episode. It's a very simple add-on that just helps you out with certain modeling tasks. Then I use Rigify for rigging. It comes with Blender, just like loop tools. They're free, you just have to enable them. And finally, there's Quad Remesher. It doesn't come with Blender, it's a paid add-on. It's used usually for retopologizing high poly models into lower poly models. But in my case, I'm actually going to be upscaling the model. It's going to be more high poly than the actual original model. And I'm doing that to kind of get a smoother mesh, as you can see here. So the way you use it, you just select the mesh, you select how much you want density to be. I think I selected around 700,000. And then you just click on remesh, and then you get this new model, which is much more high poly. Now, funnily enough, I think the latest version of Blender, which I'm not using, as you can see here in the bottom right corner, I'm using a very outdated version of Blender. But yeah, in the latest version of Blender, I think that this feature already comes in with Blender. You don't have to use this add-on. That's what I've been told. I haven't done any research for it, but yeah. But yeah, as you can see here, now that the mesh is, denser, we can start adding that detail that we want. And we can also smooth out, so the mesh is smoother and nicer to look at. You will notice me using the pinch brush here and there to make certain areas sharper. If you ever want to make a cute character, just follow the anime style. Big eyes, small mouth, small nose. Your character will look much cuter. Now, don't go too big on the eyes. You can make the small mouth and the small nose as, you can make them really small. When it comes to the eyes, don't make them too big because they're not going to look really good. They're going to look like an alien. So, just moderately big eyes, and then you can go, small nose and small mouth. That's fine. For this character, I kind of decided to go a little bit on the quote-unquote normal and realistic stuff, even though none of my characters are super realistic, but in terms of proportions. As you can see here, I'm spending a lot of time on the eyes. I had a couple of different shapes in mind, so I pretty much tried them all to see which one I liked the most. So here I was just masking the eyes, nose, and mouth, and then trying to make the cheeks a little bit more puffier. But I decided not to do it in the end. Maybe a little bit. One thing I would recommend doing immediately, if you're making a character that has their mouth a little bit open, like I have here on my own, make sure that you put some teeth inside the mouth. It will orient you to make the shape a little bit better. Unfortunately, I didn't really do it for this character because, well, I didn't need to. But yeah, it's going to help you out a lot. You will actually see it in the next episode. So here I'm just, grabbing the eyes and the head, moving it down, making it a little bit smaller. Although I think in the end I did make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, because right now it's a little bit too small. Yeah, I'm increasing the size now. Always make sure to zoom out when you're positioning your head like this. Don't be zoomed in too much. Now that the head is finally in position, I can actually make the neck, how it's supposed to be. A lot of people who make 3D characters, they make their necks kind of like an anime style where they're just really thin. I decided to not follow that trend because I don't like how it looks. So my necks are typically a little bit thicker than what you would usually see. Well, most cases. I guess for this character, it kind of looks thin. But yeah, now that the head is finally in position, we can finally actually combine all the body parts into one. So as you can see here, I'm applying all the modifiers, selecting all the separate meshes, then pressing Ctrl J to combine them into one, going to edit mode. Then I select individual origins at the top, and then I looked for non-manifold. So basically, if you go to, I'll show it here in just a second. Yeah, so you go to, first definitely edit mode. Come on, go into edit mode. There we go, edit mode. And then select all by trait and then non-manifold, and then you press F, and then you will fill all the holes. Then go into sculpt mode, Shift R, and then Control R to remesh it all into one. If you don't fill those holes, you're gonna get basically Swiss cheese. You'll see it, if you have any holes, you'll get Swiss cheese. So yeah, make sure to close all holes, and then Shift R to remesh it, Control R to apply the remesh. And now as you can see here, it's all one mesh. So you can just smooth out all those, I guess, the seams where the meshes used to be overlapping. So now that the actual body is just one mesh, we can finally start working on the certain parts. For example, here on the butt, around the legs, thighs. This area can be a little bit smoothed. Now remember how I mentioned to make sure that your armpits are not too low. Mine were a little bit too low, but you can just grab the crease brush and just crease it up a little bit like that. Smooth out this area here on the booba. Make sure that the booba are not too close to each other, because if they are, you're going to have some issues. As you can see here, I'm purposefully not smoothing out the under booba crease, because I want it to be nice and sharp at the bottom of the booba. I'm adding a little bit of muscle here on the arms, not too much, don't want her to be like too buff. Just, a little bit so it's slightly noticeable. And we're almost at the end of the video. Right here, I'm just adding a little bit of detail here and there. If everything goes correctly, you're going to see part 2 in a couple of days. I'm going to try to spread them out, not too much, just a couple of days in between each other, so people can watch them and maybe try to make the character. Don't want to like flood you guys with too much. Next video is also going to be around an hour long. But yeah, I mentioned earlier my Discord server. There's probably going to be a link in the description. Feel free to join me. In the description, there's also going to be a link to my Twitch stream. Feel free to check it out. Who knows, maybe I'm already streaming if you're watching this video. So you never know. But yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Just adding a little bit of detail here and there. Smoothing things around, trying to figure out what kind of butt shape I want to go for. I think this is pretty much what I ended up with. Didn't really change it much after this. I think I remember creasing this area a little bit. Yeah. Just a little bit crease and then smoothing it out. And yeah, that's it for the first part. You can kind of see this fake turntable that I did. Yeah. But there you go. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.